and their privilege, even if it hurts the country, even when it puts people at risk. The good news is, Indiana, when you vote, you can reject that kind of politics. When you vote, you can be a check on bad behavior. When you vote, you can choose hope over fear. You can choose a bigger, more prosperous, more generous, kinder version of America.
Still to come, migrants from Central America inch towards Mexico City in the most dangerous part of their journey yet. And the infamous El Chapo goes on trial, accused of running the world's most powerful drug cartel.
This November on TRT World, news will be across Europe and further afield to mark 100 years since the end of World War I, which left 1 million people dead and consequences the world is still grappling with. We will also bring the latest on the Brexit endgame and the final Brexit summit set for mid-November, with a look at the political turmoil in the UK and whether the threat of a no deal is real. And we will be in the US to find out how people will vote in the midterm elections. Money Talks brings you the latest from the Turkish Capital Markets Summit in Istanbul. Showcase looks back on the career of artist Andy Warhol, along with exclusive coverage of the Bosphorus and the Malatya Film Festivals, as well as the 17th Annual International Theatre Festival in Istanbul. Newsmakers looks at whether Trump is in trouble at the midterm elections and whether the Democrats are now within a reach of the White House. That's November on TRT World.
Welcome back to TRT World. Good to have you with us. Let's remind you of our top stories this hour. The United States has reimposed tough new sanctions targeting Iran's shipping, insurance, banking and oil sectors. 8 countries, including Turkey, China and Japan, have been granted temporary exemptions on imports of Iranian oil. Washington resumed sanctions after withdrawing from an international nuclear deal signed in 2015. A Turkish official has accused Saudi Arabia of sending a toxicologist and a chemicals expert to Istanbul to cover up the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Speaking earlier at the UN in Geneva, the Saudi Arabian Commissioner on Human Rights said King Salman wants to bring all the perpetrators to justice. And US President Donald Trump and former President Barack Obama have made parallel campaign stops. It's part of their final push to secure votes ahead of Tuesday's midterm elections. Opinion polls suggest the Democrats are favourites to capture a majority in the House of Representatives, while the Republicans are favoured to retain their slight majority in the Senate. Thousands of Central American migrants are passing through a part of Mexico referred to as the route of death as they continue their efforts to reach the US. This treacherous leg of the journey is also one of the longest. The caravan's marching nearly 200 kilometres to the town of Cordoba. It will take them through the state of Veracruz, which has become known in recent years for its high number of kidnappings. TRT World correspondent Edith Tianshan is on the trail with the caravan. He describes the many dangers the migrants must face as they push north.
We're surrounded by nearly 1,000 migrants who are part of the migrant caravan that set out from Honduras late last month, walking across Guatemala and now through Mexico with the ultimate goal of reaching the US border. But as you can see, we are now in one of the most dangerous areas in Mexico, and that's why they're being accompanied by the police, who says that the drug cartel's presence here is quite heavy and many crimes, including kidnappings, are a commonplace. And that is why they are accompanying these migrants, and along the way, as much as they can, they are using volunteers and cars like these, trailers really, to put women and children who really have it the hardest, walking thousands of kilometers, often without food, water, and of course enduring many sicknesses as well. Now, as you can see, this little trailer is trying to undertake this journey with all these small children and even babies at times. We witnessed a couple of women actually give birth in one of these camps that were hosted earlier. Now, there's still a few weeks before they can actually make it to the border. But the question is, how many of them will actually make it in the United States is quite questionable at a time of Donald Trump's presidency. He's often spoke about these people right at the time of midterm elections, really, that these are what he said, criminals who are simply trying to take advantage of weak US policies. But human rights groups will argue that the situation these people live in, particularly Honduras and in some of the other Central American nations, is very much like a civil war, given the continuous gang violence. And some of these people I've spoken to will tell you that they can't just simply have a job and a normal life, because they very much depend and they are threatened by the drug cartels and other gangs, often with their lives. And this is why they are set on this strenuous journey to have a better life. But how many will actually achieve it is still a question.
Jury selections due to begin in the New York trial of alleged Mexican drug lord Joaquin Guzman. Better known as El Chapo, Guzman is accused of running the world's biggest drug cartel. He was extradited to the United States in 2017 after escaping from prison twice in Mexico. Let's get more from Nick Harper, who's in New York. So talk us through this jury selection, Nick. There seems to be a lot of secrecy surrounding it.
Well, there certainly is, but it's perhaps not that unusual, because the Sinaloa cartel in the past has been known for not just intimidating witnesses, but going to the lengths of actually murdering them as well. So lots of secrecy going on, not just surrounding the jury selection, but also the witnesses that will be called during this trial that's likely to last 3 to 4 months. The jury selection is taking place in secret, behind closed doors in the judges' chambers. They're all going to be serving anonymously during the course of the trial. Also, the witnesses as well, many of them have had their names blacked out on the lists that have been produced in the run-up to this trial. Prosecutors keeping some of them as well in witness protection programs to make sure that there's no intimidation or threats made to them. Those sort of lengths are extraordinary, but they're not completely unusual. We do sometimes see those type of things put in place in the United States. But really, prosecutors are doing all they can to keep those witnesses and those jurors who are being selected in the courthouse behind me here today as safe as possible during the course of this trial.
Yeah, and we know that El Chapo has managed to escape from prison twice in the past. So how tight is security over there?
That's right, yeah, those 2 previous prison breaks in Mexico, once apparently smuggling himself out of jail in a laundry cart, the other time digging a mile-long tunnel that started in the shower inside his cell. Here in New York City, they're housing him in the maximum security prison known as 10 South. Now that is on the island of Manhattan, but we're in the borough of Brooklyn, just across the river. So extraordinary lengths being gone to keep him locked up during the course of this trial, but also to move him to the courthouse on a daily basis, involving road closures, closing down Brooklyn Bridge to transport him here to court. You can see some of the extra officers behind me stationed outside the front of the courthouse. We normally don't see that many, but just around the corner we also have a whole phalanx of various different police vehicles and high security officials there, trying to keep the borough of Brooklyn safe during this trial, which will be very high profile, but also difficult to keep nice and safe during the whole of the proceeding.
Nick, thank you very much indeed for that. Nick Harper in New York there. Now, Indonesia's National Transportation Safety Committee says the Lion Air plane that crashed a week ago had been damaged for the last 4 flights before the accident. The results revealed after the plane's flight data recorder was found and its contents downloaded for investigation. Authorities have asked the US for advice to prevent the problems happening again. 10 years ago, the plane 10 days ago, the plane crashed into the sea just minutes after takeoff. The investigation is continuing.
I agreed to do the search and will not give up. Hopefully, with the time existing, we can still go all out with the mission, even though it's been 10 days. If we see any probability, I will still search for our brothers and sisters.
We will inspect where the problem lies, what repair has been done, how the pilots flew the aircraft and with what damage.
The Speaker for Sri Lanka's Parliament says he can't accept Mahinda Rajapaksa as Prime Minister unless he can prove his party's majority in the House. Rajapaksa was sworn in last month, hours after the incumbent Ranil Wickremesinghe was sacked by the President. That triggered a political crisis, with both men claiming to be the lawful Prime Minister. The Speaker says a solution is possible if either leader can prove their majority in Parliament when it reconvenes next week.
Could cause this kind of damage. But Nezar Mazrain knows better, and when it happened to him, it was quite a shock.
It happened like instantly almost, and so I just heard the bang 3-4 times, and yeah, it just, was a nightmare. But I survived.
Nezar says he hit a marsupial, probably a kangaroo. In Booligal, New South Wales, rainfall this year is 75% below average. That's caused an increase in the number of animals near roadways, looking for grass that sometimes springs up along the tarmac. But this is often dangerous for both drivers and animals alike.
They tend to be at the moment along roadsides because there's a little bit of water that runs off on the little bit of rain we've had. That little bit of green pick is the kangaroos and emus are chasing. Fortunately, no one I know of at the moment has been seriously injured, but it's quite a big issue here at the moment.
To combat this, Sandra Ayerson has started teaching farmers what she calls drought driving skills. The largest kangaroo in Australia is a powerful creature that can grow up to 2 meters tall and weigh up to 90 kilograms. But to avoid an even more serious accident, Ayerson says you have to do something unpleasant.
When you're driving, they'll be really right close to the edge of the road and come onto the road, and you just don't want to swerve and brake, because that's when you can have a disastrous accident. Unfortunately, you may have to hit the animal, but in the long run, it's better than having to have a disastrous accident.
In addition to kangaroos, koalas, echidnas and wallabies have all been venturing beyond their natural habitats. People in southeast Australia are going through one of the worst droughts in living memory. And conservationists say it's bad for everyone, people and wildlife. But until the weather changes, Australia's roads are expected to claim even more victims. Gavin Blackburn, TRT World.
Now, it was all hands on deck at the Turkish port of Çanakkale over the weekend. This ferry's engine broke down as it arrived at the dock. Strong winds didn't help by preventing the boat from getting closer to the pier. So, waiting passengers took the matter into their own hands, quite literally, helping the ship to dock safely the old-fashioned way. Looks like a good workout there, doesn't it? More on our website, trtworld.com. I'll be back with the headlines.
Money. A commodity used for economic exchange. From person to person, country to country. Whether it's coins, notes, bonds or cryptocurrencies. It's called trade. And wherever there's money, there's a story. Money Talks on TRT World.
Check out the new trtworld.com for all the latest news from around the world. Perfect for your laptop, phone or tablet. trtworld.com.
Hello and welcome to Showcase, TRT World's daily arts and culture program, coming to you from Istanbul. A unique perspective on culture, an inside look at art, influential guests and current trends, the latest fashion, inventive design architecture, ancient and modern, all packed into Showcase, Monday to Friday on TRT World. Showcase, brought to you by Turkish Airlines.
News is just coming in to TRT World.
Our TRT News team are the first on the scene.
Hundreds of pages of evidence.
For America's most wanted teacher.
We're piecing together all the facts.
We've discovered more than we ever imagined.
In days, or even weeks. It's taken months upon months upon months upon months. No stone has been left unturned.
Information has been sourced from the darkest corners. The truth is coming to light. This is one story that will touch millions of people.
Hello, you're watching TRT World. I'm Shuli Ghosh with a reminder of our main headlines. The United States has reimposed tough new sanctions targeting Iran's shipping, insurance, banking and oil sectors. 8 countries, including Turkey, China and Japan, have been granted temporary exemptions to continue importing Iranian oil. Washington resumed sanctions after withdrawing from an international nuclear deal signed in 2015.
The Iranian regime has a choice. It can either do a 180-degree turn from its outlaw course of action and act like a normal country, or it can see its economy crumble. We hope a new agreement with Iran is possible. But until Iran makes changes in the 12 ways that I listed in May, we will be relentless in exerting pressure on the regime.
A Turkish official has accused Saudi Arabia of sending a toxicologist and a chemicals expert to Istanbul to cover up the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Speaking earlier on Monday at the UN in Geneva, the Saudi Arabian Commissioner on Human Rights said King Salman wants to bring all the perpetrators to justice.
The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has already expressed its regrets and pain for the death of Jamal Khashoggi. King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud has already instructed the prosecution to proceed with the investigation into this case according to the applicable laws in preparation to reaching the facts and bringing all the perpetrators to justice in order to bear the facts to the public.
US President Donald Trump and former President Barack Obama have made parallel campaign stops. It's part of their final push to secure votes ahead of Tuesday's midterm elections. Opinion polls suggest the Democrats are the favourites to capture a majority in the US House of Representatives, while the Republicans are favoured to retain their slight majority in the Senate. Thousands of Central American migrants are passing through a part of Mexico referred to as the Route of Death as they continue their efforts to reach the US. The caravan's marching nearly 200 kilometers to the town of Cordoba. It'll take them through the state of Veracruz, which has become known in recent years for a high number of kidnappings. That's it from me for now. I'll be back with you after Roundtable.
Of deepening darkness for the Northern Hemisphere, we will try to shed a little bit of light today on the daylight saving debate. Health damaging? Life improving? Mainly annoying? Well, perhaps it's time to wind the clocks back to an earlier time and say goodbye.